this time, we're going to ask our Table 9 speakers to hurry up and swallow whatever you just took a bite of and join Marlene on the stage for our panels of service discussion, our models of service panel. Test, test. And this is, I'm going to turn this one off. So whenever. Okay.
So this is meant to help you see beyond what you're doing. Not that your plan isn't absolutely perfect, but as we've had these webinars and these meetings, we got to know so much about these amazing organizations and the models of service that they're providing. That was the motive behind the table assignments today and this conversation. So start thinking about what your questions are. This is not meant to just be between us, but they've also graciously agreed to answer any of your questions. All right, let's get started. It is my amazing honor to introduce first Eileen Arnold from Tundra. Go ahead.
All right.
One second.
Okay. My name's Eileen Arnold, and I work at the Tundra Women's Coalition in Bethel, Alaska. That is southwest rural Alaska. It is an area accessible only by plane, 500 air miles southwest of Anchorage. We're in an area called the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta region, and that is an area the size of Oregon. We live in Bethel, which is sort of a service center for Bethel, but then also 56 communities that are peopled by Alaska Natives. So we have all the regular, we're a domestic violence and sexual assault shelter and resource center, so we've got all of the regular services that you'd expect to see at a program like ours. And then the way that we have integrated pets into our model is we just let people have pets in their room, and that's worked out really well for us so far. It happened very cleanly, I think. But we also have a secondary option for if pets don't do well in our community's living setting, which it is very small, our shelter. Then we have a great partnership with our local rescue, which I happen to be on the board of. And then also we've got a tertiary option of long-term fosters. So that's how we've handled pets in our organization.
Thank you so much. Maggie and I had the amazing pleasure of doing a trip, having a site visit to Tundra, Alaska. It is beyond anything, to Tundra Women's Coalition in Bethel, Alaska. It's beyond anything we imagined. It's the most beautiful, spectacular, strong, courageous, inspiring place that I've ever visited for not only for survivor services, but for community. The sense that they have community is just so apparent. And so that's what I came back from after that visit is, what if we all had community like that? Just amazing.
I think the first thing that happened when they got there is I sat them down and said, I need to deal with an emergency. I'll be right back.
Absolutely true. Can I tell? Can I tell?
I can't even remember what it was.
Oh, I can remember. So Maggie and I, we were flying from Las Vegas, and our flights were delayed. over and over and over the whole day. The flights were delayed, and we found out the reason that our flights were delayed was because the peninsula was having an epic rainstorm. It was flooded. The water was up over whatever there was. And so by the time we got into Bethel, the sun was still up because it was in the summertime, but it was quite late at night. And so when we made our way in the morning, I think we got into our rooms maybe like 10 o'clock or something like that, 10 o'clock at night. So the next morning, we went to Tundra, and that's exactly what Eileen said. Just as gracious as could be, welcome. I'm just going to need to deal with something, and I'll be right back. The something she was dealing with was a victim who, in that rainstorm, had been beaten, choked, and was waiting for, and the hotline workers were waiting for any law enforcement to pick up the phone to go get her. And they finally ended up sending a trooper plane to go pick her up and bring her into Tundra. And that's what we walked into. And I'm telling you, I will never forget the sense of community. Everything stopped, including us, of course, and we just held our breath and held space, waiting to know that she was safe and that she was well. And she was. And then we went on with our site visit as if, just like all of you, you switch gears and you keep going. And so the in the room was that moment, but also, you know, the tenacity to keep going, even after working the hotline all night long and trying to figure out how to save her life. So thank you for agreeing to be on the panel. We're so grateful. Okay, next is Dr. Sarah Reidenbach with Ruthless Kindness, all the way down.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I'm Sarah Reidenbach. I'm a veterinarian, and our program is in Northern California in Sonoma County. And we're a little bit different. We are founded by veterinarians in response to there not being a pet-friendly shelter or safe house in our community or any surrounding county, really anywhere in driving distance realistically. There's a few kind of satellite. So what we ended up doing, it started with our county's Victim Services Department asking if we could just do mobile rabies vaccines so that their clients could bring their pets to wherever it was they were going and have their vaccines up to date. So that was really easy, low-hanging fruit for us, and it grew from there. So now we're an on-site partner at our local Family Justice Center, and we serve 19 victim service agencies with their clients who have pets. So we are basically on call to help with safety planning, case management. We provide mobile urgent veterinary care. We provide pop-up clinics on site at all the human service agencies, and we do foster boarding and a lot of training.
The first time I heard this model, I was like, oh my goodness, look at the possibilities when we start talking about mobile veterinarian and that can-do attitude. So thank you so much for agreeing to be here. And then next we have Bridget Stadtmiller from Ion Center.
Hello, my name is Bridget, and I have a really cool job where I get to support our people and our pets. We serve 13 counties in Kentucky. It's a really fun mix, too, of rural and urban. So definitely different populations coming in with different needs at all the time. Our pet protection story started when a child actually refused to leave without his pet mouse in his pocket. So people were just sneaking pets in. We're like, we got to do something. We got to do something a little more formal. So that started in 1999, 2000 era. And then from there, we've been able to grow. We built a kennel. Our kennel is next to our human shelter. So we have human shelter and pet shelter, 5 feet from each other. And so, yeah, we're able to now support people bringing in pets to the kennel, people will bring in pets for foster, and we will board at like last resort if needed, for super full. And we've just been trying to get creative with how we still can support and serve and say yes, right? Like that's always our goal, is to take the best care of people if possible, and how are we going to reduce the amount of violence in our community. We do have also pretty cool program where we are in the community talking and teaching bystander intervention, like what to do when violence is going on, so that we can really reduce violence in our area. So a little bit about us in a nutshell.
Have you, for those of you that are serving, have you had the people sneak the pet into the, yeah. Absolutely. I love it. It's like, oh boy, we should ask. All right, and then next we have Christina Pulsifer from Rough Haven.
Hello, good morning. My name is Christina Pulsifer. I am the co-founder and co-executive director of Rough Haven Crisis Sheltering. We are located in Salt Lake City. I am here with my other co-founder, and we are here with our community partners, the YWCA in Salt Lake as well. So we are joint grantees with them. So we are one of the off-site models. We started in 2020 in June. Many of organizations like this actually started in 2020. We had started talking about it in January, so we weren't necessarily a COVID response, but happened to just kind of slide in during that time. And so we, my co-founder Marissa owned a boarding facility at that time, and so we were like, hey, let's just take in a few pets. We don't see this in the community as well. There is another organization outside of Park City that does domestic violence specific, but it was very, very small. Our organization takes in pets for all situations, such as hospitalizations, housing insecurity, and so forth. And so, what we thought would be like 10 animals a year is now like 300 animals a year. We know that the need is really great. So we have an on-site facility, and then we also use foster homes, and we kind of had a model that was for-profit. We were sort of the nonprofit arm, but that switched last year, and so now it's just fully the nonprofit arm. So I'm a licensed social worker, had been working in this space for about 25 years and just got into animal welfare like a lot of us do, and met Marissa, and we have two other co-founders. And so we do the 60 to 90 day off-site. We of course support, in Utah, we're pretty fortunate that pets are allowed in a lot of the DV shelters as well as the homeless shelters. And so we are able to provide a lot of on-site support to our community partners, which is how we worked with the YWCA, which was pet friendly, but have moved to pet inclusive, which is, that language that we're hearing, no longer requiring ESA letters, some things like that. But we do a lot of the veterinary care for animals to be able to stay there. And then we are, pretty low barrier. We do it's a free model, of course. And then we are funded through grants and donations. So yeah, we just do a lot of that foster-based program. We're the only location in Utah that does this supportive work.
And then Christina, it's like a coalition model. Is that what you?
So yeah, so it's just really us as an organization, but we have the on-site boarding, and then we also have the foster home. So it's all fully off-site. Of course, we want to do co-sheltering whenever possible and to be able to support that. But as we know, the need is really great. And there are still shelters that don't allow pets, or they're very limited on their scope, or things like that. So then, we can kind of hold the pets and then reunify them with their family when they're able to do that. So
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, and then we have Lauren Wilkie from SafeLight.
Hello, I am joined here today from Western North Carolina. I've got Susan, our associate director, and Phil, who is a neighbor in our county. And we are a poly-victimization agency serving Western North Carolina. We are one of a few agencies in the Carolinas that is pet inclusive for homeless shelters and DV agencies. There's very few in the Carolinas, so we serve most of the Carolinas. We also run the Child Advocacy Center, the Family Justice Center, the outreach programs in the schools. I heard someone saying outreach. So we have 7 programs that we're running in tandem with our shelter for about 1,300 survivors a year. Our shelter serves a little over 300. Our on-site pet kennels is new for us. It was end of December 2023, but we were partnering with Blue Ridge Humane, which we still partner with, to do our boarding and fostering for us for a few decades before we became the on-site dream that we are now. We've had 36 dogs and cats to date. I do have photoed here, in addition, our facility dog, who Susan is the lead for him, and he is a canine companion. And if you do not have a canine companion, you want one for your shelter. Foley is the dream. He's our favorite on staff. I feel like I could say that. So it's just been a real fun experience to build and do this together. I will say, for my journey with Safe Flight, from the writing the grant to doing the reports to doing the build and running the program and all the reports, I think for me is to tell you there is not a right or wrong way. It is using the space you have and where you can start and saying yes now. Ours will change over a few decades, but we worked with what we had to build something as fast as we could.
So I'm going to modify the question a little bit, because I think during introductions, each of you answered the how are you serving. So let me just back it up to say, can you please just refresh and tell everyone how you started serving and how you modified to get to where we are today? And anybody's okay to get started. I'm going to pass the microphone.
I don't think we anticipated being, because many of you are in the human services field. Our organization really is in the middle. We talk about we're firmly animal welfare, but we're also firmly human services, which presents some unique challenges as well. We certainly did not anticipate the need as great as it was, especially for domestic violence. You all know that there's been an increase since COVID as well. For us, domestic violence is our top priority, so even if we technically don't have space or room, we will always accept anyone that is leaving domestic violence. The other organization that we talked about does require either like a protective order or a referral from an organization. If they just say that I am in an abusive relationship, we just take them in. So we really try to be that low barrier. There was a picture of Lexi and her partner. She was one of our first families that came in 2020, leaving a toxic relationship, and she is just thriving. She's on our board now, getting a master's degree, bought a house with her partner, adopted new animals, and so we just really wanted to support this, and it's been kind of our passion. I worked for the government for 20 years and did this on the side like a lot of nonprofits do, and not working and all of that, and quit my job a couple of years ago to be able to do this full time. And I think we just really want to support the community. We're very heavily involved in advocacy as well. We passed that protective order in Utah in 2023, that law, and so we've just kind of continued to support our human service providers, which is super important.
TWC has been around we're closing in on 50 years, which is excellent. But also not excellent that it's still going on. I think the way that we came to pet services is we definitely just started by people sneaking animals in every now and then, and not that we wouldn't. I mean, the way that things work, about 70% of our people coming to shelter are from the villages, which is a flight away. Like, you can't be like, oh, I need to exit you because you brought your pet. Like, they'd be homeless in the Arctic, winter. So. The grant was I just saw it just looking for regular funding, and it seemed like such a great idea and such a great enhancement. A lot of the ways that we've built our program throughout the years is just expanding and enhancing as people reveal what they need and want from us. We live in a very low resource area. We're very isolated, extremely rural, probably like many programs in this room. And sometimes the thing that you need is just not available. In watching some of the presentations yesterday, it was great to see, but also, a little bit funny, like, who do you go to for this or that or the other thing? Us, us, us. Who do you go to for these pet type things? Well, the rescue, the rescue, the rescue, which I'm on. I think the great thing about Bethel is that you can, if you have a dream, if you have a vision, then if you have the drive to do the work, then you will accomplish it. And so pets has just been another nice enhancement, I think. And a very still alien concept. Like I have my development person here, Lisa, and like every couple months or so, I say like, advertise again that we do this. I don't think people know that we do this. And there's no veterinary services where we live. There's a vet who comes 1 week out of every month, and even still not then. She's young. She's starting a family. The overpopulation of dogs is just really extreme because there's just not veterinary services. So there's just an overpopulation of animals, and combine that with the highest rates of domestic violence in the nation, I believe. We have a lot to handle, but like I said, it's been very easy to integrate. People are surprised when we now ask the screening question. Do you have any pets that you want to bring? Doing the paperwork, I think, was the biggest sort of challenge to make sure that we cover everything. And after each pet, we've had to edit the paperwork just a little bit for things that we forgot or didn't think of. But that's fine. I mean, it's not hard to change paperwork. But it's been pretty easy, and I've been really grateful about that. And the people who have brought their pets with them, I think, have been grateful as well.
So for us, it was the years of working with our local humane society, Blue Ridge Humane Society, and recognizing that we would have on our hotline or people coming in, and they would tell us, I'm not going to come because I can't bring my pet, even though that's an option. So hearing that consistently and knowing people were saying no to fleeing violence and abuse because they couldn't bring their pet with the option we offered was for us the eye-opening, well, let's just break that barrier then. Let's figure out another way to do it. Where, how, when can we do this? And so we worked and still continue to work with Blue Ridge Humane Society. Sorry, I'm in a project right now with Blue Ridge Health as well. That's for our adult advocacy center, and so they're on my mind a lot. And so we worked with them and we put them in our grant as a sub-grantee so they'd be tied to us for 3 years for sure and stuck with us on the project. And we had such a great partnership, such great communication together that it's just helped us grow so much. I will tell you it's been harder for them than us because they had to learn to work with people. And guess which is harder? Right? And so we've taught them a lot of working with people for the first time as clients, and they've taught us how to work with pets as clients. And they do all of the pet care. They make sure that our food, our toys, our vaccines are up to date, our surgeries. We've had a couple of, eye surgery, another health surgery for a pet that they've been able to help do. It's just been really a dream together. And marketing-wise, doing our story together in the community, we're both two popular, strong organizations in our community. Having our name together on this project has really projected both of us into a boost financially with donors. They love that we're doing it together. They love the story. As you can see on the photos, the cute kid and dog photos are really helpful for fundraising, but it's also just the bigger point of why we now have these parents, these kids, these folks who don't have to leave their family member behind and get to come and live with us in a very safe environment that they get to continue to be their pet's caretaker.
So our agency started in 1976, very grassroots, housing people in somebody's house. Hey, we saw that there was an issue of violence in our area, and hey, what are we doing to support these people? So we've grown from, using our neighbors' houses to, 2 human shelters, 1 pet shelter, and a really nice, we're working on upping our fosters and community partners. So that's been just really exciting, when we look at the whole picture, to seeing that growth, where we started and where we are now. When it comes to pets, it all started with a mouse named Spot, who came in a child's pocket. And, the police were there serving, hey, we have to get this family out. We have to get them out right now. We're like, all right. So they were helping with transport and bringing them to us. And he was like, well, I'm not going to leave him behind. He will surely be hurt or killed. So that's, just how we got started. And then realizing that, hey, this is really hard for people. Pets are a part of the family. And I think that's another thing I just really love about our organization is that how are we constantly removing barriers, serving survivors, and looking at what the need really is, and then taking our service approach to meet people really where they're at. So when it comes to serving pets and how we do that now, we have definitely veterinary partners that have been helping us with spay, neuter, shots, all the good things. We've definitely had some higher level injuries, pets coming in with injuries, pets coming in with illnesses, and that has been really amazing. I still feel like every time we have, this is a big financial need, looking to our community and looking into our partners to help us out financially, and that's been, just like really exciting to have that, support from people, because they like, this dog's hurt, this cat's sick. What can we do to help that family? One of the other things I think is another person. We're using the low barrier model, and when you're having the low barrier model, it's hey, how are we saying yes as often as possible with all the issues that come with people and their pets. So I think that's been a big part of our journey. We also used to utilize animal shelters, like our local animal shelters. That was our kind of first partner, but our services were always limited. They timed us, hey, you can only use, our services for this amount of days and this is many pets, and there was just never enough. So we're like, hey, we have to grow this. We definitely track how often we're saying no, and they're like, hey, this is a bigger issue, and we need to, work harder to make it's safe for people and pets, and nobody is going to stay in an abusive relationship because they can't bring their family members.
Okay, so Ruth has kind of started with the pets, so we're opposite. My co-founder, Dr. Kate, and I were both shelter veterinarians for a long time, and at humane societies and SPCAs, we're really good at helping pets who don't yet have a home, but we have not been historically so great about helping pets who have a home, but that home is going through difficulty. And so we just started, like I said, with mobile vaccines based on being asked. And then that uncovered this huge gap in services. So our original vaccine appointments were meeting women in a parking lot and doing a vaccine out of the back of a car, or just on the lawn in a park. And then from there we bought an old ambulance and repurposed it into a veterinary exam room on wheels, basically, and that became our mobile unit. And that changed everything. And it also helped us address a need that was so much bigger than we anticipated. And then our services have just been completely guided by what our partners tell us that they need. So we didn't plan on doing temporary care, foster boarding, but then we started getting calls from women who were choosing to live in their car because the local shelter wouldn't take their pets. And so just based on need, and thanks to Rough Haven for telling us how crisis fostering is done, because we didn't know that was a thing. So we've learned a lot from them and developed that program. So that's how we started.
I'm going to stop right there and ask, are there any questions about the way things started, the way that they're describing the journey before we move on? Okay. So, what are the biggest challenges and the biggest surprises that you experienced? I'll start back with you, Doctor.
Okay, biggest challenges and surprises. Honestly, I didn't anticipate this being my full-time job. I didn't anticipate that it was such a huge need that this needed to be like a whole new nonprofit, right? I thought it was something I could like do on the weekend on the side. And it's like, oh, okay, this is really big. So now we need to scale, we need to grow. It's just the need is all of a sudden, glaring in front of us. So that was a surprise. The biggest challenge for us is that we don't have a local safe house that embraces the pet inclusive model or even pet friendly model yet. We do have partners who are dipping their toe, and that's really, really exciting. But foster and boarding is really expensive and logistically difficult. So that's a challenge. The other challenge for us, I think, is, when we try to fundraise, people are like, well, you're a veterinarian, but you're serving people. So, like, are you an animal organization or are you a human organization? And so people kind of want to know what lane we're in. And the whole point is that we're both, right? We're veterinarians who are trying to help the entire family. But that takes, it takes some explaining. Because when you say I'm with the Humane Society, they know what you do. When you say I work for so-and-so Women's Services, they have a good idea what you do. But when we try to explain what we do, there's always a little bit of an explanation that's needed.
So when I think of issues and like barriers that come up, I'd probably say the biggest one that we've been having lately, and I think it relates to trauma. Like, we're having people come in that are trauma survivors, and then our pets are also trauma survivors. So how are we keeping everyone safe? I think I anticipated like some behavior issues with animals coming in. I was like, that'll be like our small percentage, right? And that has grown. That has definitely grown to bigger than what I originally anticipated. So I think lately we've been having just some more intense animals come in, cats and dogs, that are real mad about their situation. And I get it, but like, it's also keeping everyone safe. And we've had illnesses, we've had all those things. We've had a couple animals pass away, and that was just really sad. Like, we've had cancer, we've had kidney failure. We've had some of those things, which are, I think, just really hard for the pet and the parent. And sometimes we've had, a person coming in with multiple pets, and then the other animals are grieving too, and you're like, oh God, everyone's sad. We gotta work together right now. And I would say one that was probably like the most surprising is there have been times where we've had pets in foster care, and then we are coming for visits, like with their pet parents, and they've had a very intense reaction back with like being reunited with that person. And for me, I just kind of read that as trauma. I was like, oh, hey, they were having a trauma reaction, or that your animal's having a trauma response, the human's having a trauma response, and like, hey, how do we now safely integrate you guys back together? And like, I don't know if anybody else has had that issue, but I was like, oh, this is really weird. For a long time, when we're bringing pets in for visits, or the families are hanging out, everyone's been very happy to see each other. But yeah, the times where they have not been happy to see each other, it was, I think, just very shocking for me. But that's really probably my biggest one. Yeah, so each animal that we've had that have passed away, we've done something a little bit different. There was one pet parent, her cat name was Daisy. Like, we supported them in like the cremation, and we got her like a necklace and sent flowers, something engraved with her name on it. It's actually on our poster, Love. She passed away. She had lymphoma, and so we did almost kind of like a burial service, like or a funeral service, like for her, and then got her a few things like with her love and her picture and stuff like engraved for the families. And it was just, and again, we paid for the cremation and things like that, but just finding a way to help, support and honor her.
That's lovely. There's been a lot of barriers, hurdles, things that we've kind of figured out, learned along the way, pivoted, and we've got good at pivoting, right? COVID taught us how to pivot. Helene just taught us how to pivot real hard. There's been a lot of pivots, and I think with the pets it's the same. It's, you think you know what you're going to do or where it's going to land, and just scratch all that and plan for it to be okay that it might be different than you think it is going to be, right? Who's experienced that or is experiencing it now, right? So for us, it was just figuring out where the heck we were going to put it. We own 3 buildings, and our shelter building is 3 stories. And figuring out a space that would be the best fit for the model was, for us, the first barrier. We don't have any outdoor space. We're downtown in a small city town. And so we had to do it indoors, which there's a lot of pros to that. And then figuring out a space big enough, because I had no idea the kennels needed to be as big as a New York apartment. So once we figured all that out and were able to kind of do the build, our kennel ended up definitely being a lot bigger than we anticipated to start. It's a little over 1,000 square feet for our doggy pet kennel den wash area, our doggy den play space, and then our cat play space den and kennels. So it's definitely bigger than we thought it was going to be. And it went from 3 different locations till our final location. In that final location, I learned everything I needed to ever know in my lifetime about city and county water laws. And I never need to know that again, but we had to build a trench for drainage and cleaning. So just different things you're going to learn along the way. You're like, I might need that, sure. And then we had just had barriers with the people when we started serving them and having to change up our forms and tweak it, which is okay. But I didn't anticipate that we would have as much need as we did for our clients to be handheld on how to do their pet care. That was a surprise to me. We had to enact, just like we do for anything else, we have sobriety contracts, we have parenting contracts, we have pet contracts in place for when you're not walking or feeding your pet appropriately, and what those standards look like to just, meet the standard. We've had to call in once on a client, our local, and I forget the title of it, but through our sheriff's department, there's one paid pet staff to kind of go out and help with issues. And we had a owner who was neglecting their pets so much. You don't have DSS for pets. You have one staff. He was on vacation that week. So we had to just figure it out without any extra support, and we did with that person. We just worked with the person, but there wasn't anyone or sort of authority figure to help us with someone who was going through so much trauma they couldn't understand the neglect and harm they were causing their dog. And us being led by social workers, of course, trauma-informed care, we're beyond that. We're trauma-informed. That's our what we do. That's all we do is trauma-informed. And so for us, it's been learning how to really understand and help people to care for their pets appropriately, while also having the great stories too, which we'll get to. But I think there's just been so many surprises along the way of ensuring that pet care is standard and that pets are cared for wasn't something we anticipated. I thought people were going to leave their pets behind. We have not had that happen, not once. There's been a few that we thought shouldn't be pet owners at the time, and we worked with them to make sure they could stay pet owners. We've not had any pets that needed to be removed from pet owner care to date, but there was, as I said, the one that we thought got pretty close to it. And then we did have an incident with a client who was bit by her dog, and I had to work through the law of quarantine for that pet and work through that. It was really hard on our staff. It was more stressful for our staff than I think anybody else, just that trauma of that pet having to be locked up for a few days and quarantine was pretty hard. So working together and checking in on each other and having a lot of meetings together has been pivotal for us to learn and grow and tweak the program as we go along.
Like I said earlier, the biggest surprise was how easily it was to integrate pets into our model. I think part of that is just people are pretty easygoing where we are, and I think it comes from being sort of isolated and having to really depend on each other. Marlene talked about our sense of community. It's a real thing where we are, which is great, because all we have out there sometimes is each other. And we really need to depend on each other for literal survival sometimes. So I think that made the integration of pets a little bit easier. Biggest challenges, honestly, like the things that kind of keep me up at night, I'm worried about cats. At the table I was at yesterday, we were talking a lot about there's not a lot of cats where we live because it's the frozen tundra. They're just not going to survive outside. Also, there's predators and things. And, we are like a town in the middle of wilderness. Sort of similar to Vegas, actually, like coming in, flying in. I don't know if anybody else flew in at night. Like a light oasis is Vegas. Very interesting. So we're like that, except we're civilization in the middle of tundra. So not a lot of cats. I'm worried about cats because of allergies. Starting with my own. Even being in this hotel is making me like whatever because of the smoke and things. So I'm kind of worried about how to navigate that if anybody brings a cat. I also sometimes worry if somebody's going to try to bring like a mushing team, because we have that where we are, we don't have the space for that. we'd have to lean on our animal rescue, I think, team, but even that would be like huge. So those are the things that I kind of worry about in terms of just our space and our capacity to handle that kind of stuff, handle the care, handle those types of things. But like I said, like people are pretty easygoing. They're used to living, like everybody's got a housing crisis. We have a housing crisis in rural Alaska as well. 15 people can live in like a two-room home. Like people are just used to living in each other's pockets. So people live better in community, I think, in our region, even in our corner of Alaska, more so than other urban areas like Anchorage or Juneau or things or Fairbanks. Like people are just used to being crowded and dealing with each other. So I think that's made this integration easier. Yeah, and the things I worry about are just like dog teams and cats.
I think, like Sarah, we just, it's that difficulty of explaining what we do. Like with our organization, a lot of crisis sheltering or temporary care sheltering and animal welfare are linked to humane societies, or they're on a shelter site or things like that. We do not do adoptions at all. Our entire program is dedicated to pet owner support, keeping pets with their people. We just hired a recent development contractor with us, and she's like, look, you guys in all of your communications and emails need to say keeping pets with their people. Because again, you can, the Humane Society, you guys rescue animals. And again, it's not. That's what we really want to develop, that human-animal bond and continue for that. So I think that has been a big challenge for us. And just again, getting pets, as you know, talked about as important as the other barriers that people experiencing domestic violence are facing and how important that is. I think we live in a time, fortunately, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of research, so we lean really heavily into that storytelling, but also having a lot of data. In fact, I was sitting in a session yesterday, and they were talking about pets and protective order data in your state. So when we got that added a few years ago, I was like, oh man, I don't even know how many people are using that. So, I emailed our Domestic Violence Coalition immediately and was like, hey, do you guys have that? And just found out that the state hasn't even been tracking that at all. So now it's like, okay, what's that next conversation gonna look like so that we can, be very specific. So, and just having to say no. I mean, we not for domestic violence specifically, but we get 30 applications a week for sheltering of people's animals and housing and things like that. And we wish we had the capacity and the space. We actually are moving into a bigger location by August. We'll be able to house more cats. So we have solving the cat issue, because as we know, people don't just have one cat, it's like 6 cats and things like that. So I think that was a big surprise as well, is just the amount of animals. And we do have some limitations as far as, typically we'll say we'll take 2 pets per household. Also, it's very difficult to find housing if you are going to have more than that, right? And so we really just kind of have to be realistic with people, and what does that long-term plan with their animals look like, so that they don't end up back into homelessness or going back to their abuser because they don't have a place for their animals. So let's have those conversations now and figure out and developing those relationships with our Humane Society to take the admissions and the surrenders and things like that has been really invaluable.
Yes.
And obviously, our goal is to become inclusive, right? I'm worried about the day-to-day logistics. We have an on-site kennel that's pretty cool. It has AC. We have notifications if something's going on with the AC. Um, Alicia is part of the team, and she goes in, makes sure that everyone's been walked, pet, loved on. They have, a fridge. They have music on. Wonderful, yeah. But yeah, this is my baby, and I don't get to sleep with my baby. I rather sleep in the car. It breaks our heart, but we are not. We don't have the money to replace the carpet every time they pee on it, or to wash the comforter every 2 days because pets are in trauma. And just like the little 8-year-old boy who start wetting the bed again because they're in a shelter, the pet will do too. So I think I would love to know how you guys manage that for the programs that actually have some like the human with the pet, because what also um, like standards, right? For me, this table could be clean because there's no dirt on it. For you, it is not clean. It has tissues. It has food. So how do we manage that on a community living and with the day-to-day logistics? Like, hey, my program just doesn't have the money to buy comforters every time I have a new pet. So, yeah.
Management is hard. Day-to-day living is hard. Community living is hard. People living with trauma together is hard. I think just like take one problem at a time. And I mean, first of all, I'd also say like don't have carpet. I mean, we don't have carpet. We didn't build our shelter with carpet. That was way before pets. We don't have wood furniture either because bed bugs. And you just sort of learn that as you replace furniture with each bedroom that gets bed bugs and things. Seek donations as well for things. If you don't have a budget for things like blankets, man, people want to donate that stuff. They really do. And truly, if you stick a pet face on a development thing, then you'll get what you need. And then I think just you need to figure out what works for your program, like create the paperwork, tweak the paperwork. With each pet that we've had, I think I've had to change the paperwork a little bit or do a little bit of extra training because it's stuff that I didn't think about. And that's just management. Like when you're there, on the front line, it's different from thinking through the policies and procedures. So just be flexible, I think. And then really, I do think that you just shouldn't have carpet. Sometimes the place that you becomes your shelter, that's just what you got. But anytime that you can get like a capital improvement or something like that, like I had to painfully replace all of my wood furniture when I became director because bed bugs finally came to rural Alaska. And now when more programs in even more rural Alaska are creating their programs, I tell them don't get wood furniture. Start that way because you'll end up that way. And it's just those little things, those little painful daily management things that you learn along the way.
Susan, do I allow cloth furniture in our facilities? No way. No carpet. So it's really easy to get grants for retrofitting and rebuild. It's hard to get grants for staff, but you're asking for an easy one. There's a list of grants that was shared on a website yesterday that is a great starting place to write a grant and just figure out go ahead and price out with your contractor, how much does it cost to put in a vinyl flooring that's washable with a drain. Go ahead and price out some new equipment and go ahead and throw in there the equipment build you need for your year. How many blankets you think you're gonna need this year, building in that it's not one per pet, we know that, right? We partner with a lot of partners in our community. We also have a resale store. Don't forget your resale store, so we'll just give you some. But throw it on your Amazon wish list. If you don't have an Amazon wish list on your website, you better add one today, write that down. You need to go ahead and be marketing this when people donate it. Look at these quilts that were handmade by the So Blessed quilters that brought them for our pets, because then someone else can be like, oh, I'm gonna bring some quilts too, right? So write that down, marketing. And photos. You need to make sure you're leveraging your community to be part of this. You're not alone. Don't make yourself alone in this world. You need to put in your grant a commercial leased washer dryer. Don't let them wash their stuff with the human stuff. You don't want soiled quilts getting washed with your kids' blankets, right? So put that in your grant. They'll pay for that for the year. It's not that expensive. So build out your dream budget and throw an extra 10 grand in it for what you didn't know and write equipment on that line item and toys. I'll send you my budget.
I think you guys covered it. Do you have anything to add?
The only thing I would add is also leverage, if you're going to consider in-room or more pet inclusive, is just leverage the client's willingness and ability and knowledge to take care of their own pet. Don't think that your staff has to do it, right? Consider the pet parent contract and what you're expecting. You're expecting them to clean, you're expecting them to walk, you're expecting them to do the bathroom pickup, things like that, and lean on them to take care of their own pet instead of thinking you guys have to do it.
We do have like the pet parent like contract, but honestly, it never occurred to me to be checking in on the parents to make sure they're doing that. Like, how do you guys do that? Because we do have like a part-time like animal care staff and then the manager of the program, but it really never occurred to me to like ask them, are y'all checking in to make sure they're feeding their pets? Like, we've never had any major concerns or anything, thank the Lord. But how do y'all go about doing that? Because I'm like, wait, I never even thought about that. So how do y'all incorporate that into the day-to-day to make sure that part is actually being done?
It has to be the director or program manager in your shelter's expectation for your team, your shelter aides, your case managers, that is part of case management. We treat our pets as children, and it's no different. You have to take care of your child when you're in shelter, right? Or y'all do the caretaking? No, by law you can't. Well, you have a little less laws for pets. That's kind of the barriers. There's not as much structure or laws, but we build it in internally. What are the policy and procedures? Don't make your staff write their own policy and procedures. They need you, the leaders in the room, to write those policy and procedures to guide and help them so they can blame you for it, right? That's what the policy and procedures are for. Blame me for that. Lauren said you got to clean this every day. So you need to make sure there's an upfront structure. And I'll say what we can do better. When our hotline is getting that call, I think our people calling in could have a better upfront expectation. You're not dropping your pet off here for vacation. You are this pet's caretaker, and we are watching you.
I was just going to say, too, and I'm going to give another shout out for our lovely friends back there at Greater Good. I don't know if how many of you were in the presentation yesterday, but they are the Greater Good, Red Rover, they created Don't Forget the Pets. And again, they are like the premier gold standard of co-sheltering practices. If you go to their website, they have an entire training guidebook that tells you how to do all of those things. They have lots of different pet policies from other organizations that help give that. They have funding available. They're so easy to work with. They gave us, $45,000 grant a few years ago to help build kennels specifically for domestic violence pets and things like that. And so, lean into a lot of those resources for funding because they're out there and they want to support your organization and help. And this is not reinventing the wheel. I mean, everyone here has these similar concerns. So when we go into a community partner and they're like, well, what about this, this, and this? And it's like, hey, I mean, this is already being done in all of these other organizations. Let's talk about, some of those ways to overcome those barriers. So get together with Gabby and Marina back there. But yeah, they are an incredible resource.
I like the term, like, not reinventing the wheel. When we got the grant, I thought the exact same thing. Like, somebody's done this somewhere in the nation, especially the people like I've got a federal program manager and they've got technical assistants. They're going to know how to do this. So I remember when, we were awarded the grant. The budget wasn't approved yet, though, and it just so happened that a woman with 5 children and a dog was asking about if her dog could come as well. I was like, oh, yes, that dog can come, but also I don't have any paperwork. And I just shook the tree at my federal, for my federal program manager. And I don't even think the technical assistance had been announced at that point. I don't remember who did help me. I have a very protective brain in that I forget what happens, basically as soon as it does, or as soon as I do something, I forget what it is. But somebody sent me all the policies and procedures that we just copy and pasted for, made it work for our community. And for what we had, and then, like I said, after every pet, we've sort of had to tweak it. So just be ready to tweak, just like for everything else.
One of our biggest barriers became a biggest win, the insurance company. If you're looking to do your bill, that's where you need to start right now because it's going to take a minute. You have to start emailing and figuring out who your contact is and what you're going to need. It took over a year for us to finally get the right person and the right answer, but that's okay because we were still in the planning paperwork process. But by the time I finally got the person and was able to send them over our draft copies of our policies and our paperwork we were planning, they added it to workers' comp for free and didn't add any breed restrictions, and we're not saying anything. Don't ask, just leave it. That was Philadelphia. Shh.
One of the things we've also moved to is that we have we're looking at paperwork. It's an agreement between staff and pet parent. So like, hey, these are the things we provide and support, and these are the things like as far as like expectation that we expect you to provide and support when serving. And we have a very similar structure with our people paperwork and with the pet paperwork. So like, hey, when we're talking case management, we're talking these are the things we're going to bring up. These are the things that we're going to support you with. And then with the pets, the same thing. Like, hey, when you're in our care, we provide all the food. We provide this, we provide that. And then you provide. So like, it's really written out, I think, in a nice, friendly way that also is supportive. So when we're talking, like, hey, if something's not going well, if we do notice something, like, hey, like we talked about this, let's bring this up. And just really finding, hopefully, like easy ways to set expectations and then have good conversations about it with, because yeah, we have had people not take care of their pets, and we have had people that just not great. So we have to be like, all right, hey, how are we going to intervene and support, just how we would if a parent was not doing a great job with their kids. We would intervene and support and say, hey, let's talk about this. I heard you get real mad at your kid. How can I help you? And so yeah, just really mimicking that model that we already do and including them like, hey, this is your family member. Let's do it.
We don't have them on site because we don't have a shelter. But the only thing I just wanted to add is that have your backup options ready, because of course, if somebody's not taking care of their pet, you want to go from a supportive angle and offer whatever's needed to support it being better. But pets are a little bit of a wild card, and so like if it's not working out on site, what's your backup?
We just had this last week. We had a mom with 3 cats because they don't come in ones with your cat future. They come in pairs to 6 tuplets. And with our 3 cats, the mom wasn't ready to stay in shelter and work on what she needed to anymore. She was breaking a lot of, we're a low barrier shelter, so really unsafe, threat of harm, and needed to work on her mental health. So we needed to board the cats. And so the cats are now with Blue Ridge Humane Society, and she's getting her mental health treatment, and then hopefully they'll come back in a few weeks and be back together rejoined. But yes, one option is not enough. You got to have a few plans and a backup plan and a plan C, D.
And I do think you need to have like a worst case scenario, like abandonment sort of plan. Like we had that situation where we had a woman who brought a large dog into shelter. She told us it was a small dog. It was a large dog, husky, those Alaskan huskies, not the purebred kind, but like the kind that are really, bred in Alaska. She had a drug habit, poor. And she came to shelter. The dog wasn't going to work in shelter, so we got our rescue friends to kennel the dog. And as soon as the dog was in the kennel, we didn't see her again she wasn't staying in our shelter. It was like, 5-7 days. And that's when I realized in our paperwork we didn't have like and if you abandon your pet, what do we do then? So, we did manage to sort of work that one out, in the ways that we work things out. And then we changed the paperwork to include hey, if it's been like 7 days and we haven't seen you and the rescue is taking care of your animal entirely, then, that can't last for forever.
Hi, good morning. I just want to say to the lady that mentioned about the beddings and all that, blankets, we approach one of our hotels. Every town has an hotel, and quarterly we get blankets, towels, and all that. So that would be an option. Just every town has a hotel. Just approach to them and see if you can get that for free.
And the pet care equipment that they get coming in, they get to take with them when they leave us. So it's sort of a nice, we do care bags for parents, for kids. The pets get one too. So you take your pet pillow and toys, because you can't really share them, so they get to go. And so it's a nice sort of takeaway and laundry basket full of things for them to start their new home as well. Build that into your grant. I do want to say for the kennel build, as you're kind of thinking through your equipment, absolutely the Greater Good Charities model for building the kennel doors and spacing was huge, immensely huge for us learning. And then our local Humane Society and their tricks, tips, tricks, doing it together. The most important thing you're going to gather in this trip is the relationships you make and the friends you make. We went and toured agencies that had some kennels to figure out what to do and what to do. And we learned real quick, no wood, especially for the cat areas. No wood, no carpet, no cloth. So, lean on what's working and not working and ask your folks, what would you have done different if you had had the dream?
Gosh, that's a great lead into our last question. And our last question is, what made it worth it all? All the grant writing, all the policy work, all the surprises, all the learning that staff were afraid of pets or people were not sure how this was going to work or trust you with their pet if they were going to have to turn their pet over. What makes it worth it all?
I think the simplest answer is that seeing the faces of the people that come through our doors that we've said yes to, and then knowing that they're all safe. Knowing that we've said yes, knowing at the end of the day, like, hey, this person came from this situation and now they're safe. And then, I talk about this a lot, with like our staff, like our big wins, our big cup fillers is when they're leaving shelter into their own home and everything's like magical and beautiful. But then how are we also looking for our smaller wins, which like, hey, we kept them safe for 30 days with no violence and they're doing very well and we've safety planned with them if they're going back to that other partner. Or, hey, maybe they're going to live with family, or hey, maybe they're relocating. So really finding our wins every day. Some of the animals that we've been working with too, like when they're healing from surgery or when they had like a breakthrough, like the first time when an animal comes in and they stop shaking, there's those little wins and then there's our big wins. But all of it, right? Like being able to say yes and knowing, like when I go home at night and go to sleep, like, oh man, like, okay, they're safe. Like I think it's just like that feeling and that passion with the mission. Just to keep going. But yeah, that's my, in a simplest probably answer.
Okay, what makes it all worth it? I think for me, I feel like we can't really call our services equal or equitable or fair if they're not available to somebody just because they love a pet. And it's such a solvable problem. We know the statistics of people who aren't able to access services just because they happen to love a pet, and for that to be something that has a negative consequence just seems absurd to me. So for me, the win is just seeing that the solution has been found and it's being implemented by all of us and it's working. For me as a veterinarian, the fact that my office is inside a family justice center, right? And I'm sitting at the table with our local victim service EDs and we're all solving problems together is like, that blows my mind as a veterinarian that we've been embraced by our county and by our victim service partners, that they get it and and that more clients are getting to safety because of it. Like the solution's working.
My board members laughed at me when I told them I was going to build this $150,000 retrofit in our facility. So I think the biggest win is seeing their faces when it was done. This is why my staff call me the bulldog, right, Susan? Which, very fitting nickname, I suppose, for this conference. I think the biggest takeaway, intentionally, our photo is a thank you story from one of our clients, and that gratitude we get when we save the lives and save the pets. It's pretty pawsome, as the story says. And I feel like I actually wrote myself an email reminder to put up a board in our shelter case management office to just tack up those thank you notes that we receive. Because it's easy for us to talk about the challenges, the barriers, and it's easy to remember some of the successes, but we can forget them too quickly. So I think we need to remind each other. We start our meetings with, tell us a good news story. Tell us something that you're excited or proud about this week that happened. And the small things get overlooked. So find ways to share the gratitude and share the successes more in your team.
The thing that's made it all worth it is that every now and then I get to pet a dog at work. I'm teasing. I mean, what other reason would we be doing this other than to just break down more barriers and be able to say yes to more people and allow people to come into shelter who have never come to shelter before? Because I do think I've worked at my agency for 15 years. You know, like I've hired people who I babysat in shelter 15 years ago. Like the people who are coming with pets are people I've never seen before. They're new people. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's going to be similar to all of our reasons. That's why we do it. That's the greatest thing about doing it.
Yeah, I think, again, what all of these lovely people said up here is the same. And, you know, with being in animal welfare, we love animals, and I think it's really hard to love people. And so if you spend any time on social media or you're involved in any of that, you'll see, oh, I hate people so much. Animals are the greatest. I don't want to talk to them. Like, we don't say that in our organization. We say that, you know, we don't say people or animals are better. We serve both ends of the leash. We talk about our clients and our families as animal welfare heroes because prevention is hard to demonstrate, right? It's so easy to go on Facebook and say, why are you giving up your animal? And I'll see somebody that I know that has filled out our application and has an extremely, you know, was threatened, their life was threatened, right? But they're not gonna put that business out there. And so then they just get hate after hate after hate. And I think that we just see that so much, and being able to see people 4 years later, right, that come through maybe another vaccine clinic and say, look, I still have my animal, I'm in housing, I'm you know, doing great, those are those wins. We have a kudos, I have an email kudos folder that I just, anytime I get like a nice email or a Google review, right, or anything like that, I just shove it, you know, put it right in there so that we can go and kind of remember. I can share with our volunteer team or our staff or things like that to remember that, you know, the angry person that gets upset or whatever, that is such a small piece of what we do. So I think, you know, we love the animals too, but it really goes back to just kind of that whole family.
Are there any questions about these successes that have been shared? How about any other questions that might have popped into your head for questions we did not ask, topics we did not cover? No? Well, please join me in thanking all of our panelists. If you have a question for them that you didn't want to ask in group, please make sure you find them, ask the question, exchange emails, whatever you want to do, because the more information we keep sharing with each other, the better all the boats rise, right? Thank you, everybody.